for joining the webinar this afternoon. I'm sure all of you came with your questions ready, so I will just kick us off here with a quick introduction, and then I'll open the floor for Q&A. So a couple housekeeping things to keep in mind during the webinar. First, please stay on mute if you are not actively asking a question. Also, if you do have a question, please raise your hand until your question is addressed, and once it has been answered, please lower your hand. And lastly, if you prefer to ask your question in the chat, the Accenture team will be monitoring the chat, and we will address those questions at the end of the webinar. As for why we're here, after the fiscal year 23 CROSSACT report was submitted back in June, there were 3 known issues that needed to be addressed. So first, due to ambiguous requirements from USED, there was confusion around the initial guidance that was sent to the districts. Second, there were various flags from the ESF reporting tool. And lastly, some submissions had their data adjusted to conform to USED requirements if the outstanding data quality issues were not resubmitted by your entity. I also would like to highlight that the deadline for this resubmission is Friday, September 6th. However, if you're able to provide us with your submission before that deadline, that would be great. And lastly, all policy and compliance related questions should be inquired with MDE. During this webinar, we'll strictly focus on any reporting questions you guys have. And before I start with the Q&A, I'm going to walk you guys through a high-level review of the most common errors that we saw the first time around during the first submission of the report. So the first section, or before I get started with this, I want to call out that the document that I'm sharing right now is the technical guidance that I sent to all of you in the same email with your initial submission attached to it. That email, the initial outreach that I'm referring to, was either sent to you guys at the end of July or within the first week of August from my michigan.gov email address. So moving forward, please only refer to this technical guidance. The one that was sent to you guys at the beginning of this year, you guys can discard it. And again, just use this as your reference moving forward. So the first section that I want to call out here is the total amount expended for specific staff across all ESSER funds. So there was a subset of entities who received an email indicating issues regarding the total amount expended for staff across FTE. And again, that's referencing this section that I'm sharing on the screen now. If you did not receive an email, then your data for this section was not flagged by the ESF reporting tool and your numbers are okay. The next section that I want to call out is the student enrollment by demographic subgroup section that's shown on the screen here. The enrollment data in this section should reflect fall 2022 counts. In the initial technical guidance that was sent out to you guys, it requested fall 2023 counts. That is incorrect. And again, this enrollment by demographic subgroup section should reflect fall 2022 counts. The next section that I'm going to review, this applies to sections 1, 2, and 4. These sections were the primary cause of confusion and why we're having to resubmit data. So using this section 1 as an example, again, everything I say here applies to sections 1, 2, and 4. So the first scenario that you could have in these sections is if you answer false to the probing question. So evidence-based summer learning or summer enrichment programs, if you answer false here, indicating that there were no summer learning or summer enrichment programs, the rest of this section can be left blank. And again, same with sections 2 and 4. If you answer false for the first question in any of these sections, the rest of the section can be left blank. So the second scenario that I'm going to walk through is if you answered true for the probing question here, indicating that evidence-based summer learning or summer enrichment programs were available, and you answered false in the second question, indicating that the program was not available to all students, then we would expect there to be a value reported here, indicating the number of students the program serves at full capacity, as well as a value reported here, indicating the total unique headcount of students that participated in the activity. So again, just to review one more time, if you answered true, false for the first two questions, there should be a value in BY indicating the number of students served at full capacity. And then within the same section, again, if you answered true and then false, the enrolled eligible students at LEA and subgroup, so CA, CC, CE, and so on, these numbers should not tie to the demographic subgroup data reported in the previous section. These counts should reflect the number of students in each subgroup that were eligible to participate in the activity. And the subsequent subsections, so CB, CD, CF, and so on, should reflect the number of students that actually participated. And then the last thing I want to call out in this section here is if you reported anything other than 0 in the other student population, anything other than 0 here, we would expect there to be a description of the other subpopulation in the last column of the section here. And now the last example that I'm going to walk through, I'll use section 2 as an example, but again, this applies to sections 1, 2, and 4. So if you answered true to the probing question, indicating that evidence-based after-school programs were available, and you answered true to the second question, indicating that the program is available to all students, then you can leave the third question blank because you already indicated that the program was available to all students, but we would still expect you guys to report a value in DG indicating the total unique headcounts of students that participated. So moving to the next part of this section, again, keeping in mind that we answered true and true for our first two questions, the enrolled eligible students at LEA and subgroup, so DH, DJ, DL, and so on for the rest of this section, these values should tie to the demographic subgroup counts in the section before section 1. And again, that's because you answered true, indicating that the program was available to all students. And then DI, DK, DL, and so on, those values should reflect the number of students that participated in the activity from the subgroup. So again, those were just a high-level review of the most common errors that we saw during the initial submission. Thank you guys for bearing with me as I walked through all of that. I will now open the floor for any questions that you guys might have. And again, just keep in mind to just raise your hand if you have a question and we will call on you that way. Yes, Sarah.
All right, my question was, we did receive an email. Sorry, I'm going back to it. That our salaries were off.
Mm-hmm.
So in looking at it, sorry, I'm going back to my emails here.
That's okay.
Oh, sorry, not finding my question now. So it says that, you know, we had our teachers making over 100,000. Okay. So the amount that I put in there was salary and benefits. Are we supposed to go back and only include salaries? So it looks like on the original submission, we did the information was blacked out because that was on a previous report that we submitted. and on what you sent back to me had those numbers included, and it said that we basically our teachers were making over 100,000, so it got flagged.
Okay, so your question is if the values in that section should include salary and benefits.
Yes, because with salary and benefits, we would be over 100,000.
Okay, so yes, you are correct. It should be the total spend. So that's salary and benefits. And again, we're not necessarily saying that your data is incorrect. We're just letting you know that it was flagged by the reporting tool because of the values being greater than 100,000. But if that is accurate, you can just respond to my email and let me know that your numbers are correct. And again, if there's an explanation as to why it's greater than 100,000 or anything, you can just include that in the email.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Does anybody else have any questions? And again, just keep in mind if your answer or if your question has been answered, if you can please put your hand down. Jody?
So I heard the last person, I forgot her name already, I'm sorry, indicate that the numbers that were blacked out, those dollars expended were in a previous report. So, because those numbers, I don't know where those numbers came from. I guess I'm asking for how do I verify that that's the number? I'm confused.
So the numbers in the FTE section that we said some entities were flagged for, that data was collected back in January by MDE analysts who reached out directly to the districts to get that data. And the reason that it was blocked off or it's blocked out in the technical guidance is because, again, the data was gathered directly from the districts. So we didn't need you guys to resubmit that data to us. But in the attachment that I sent you guys, again, at the end of July or beginning of August, in the attachment in that email, those numbers, you should be able to see them. And if you're not, let me know and I can send you those numbers.
Well, I see the numbers, but I'm not sure I agree with them. So I'm trying to figure out what submission that I submitted that it would have been in that I would, because I tried to tie it to what was submitted to the state with the FID.
Again, those numbers were collected back in January from the MDE analysts. We as Accenture did not collect that data from you guys. They reached out directly.
If the number isn't a number I agree with, do I change it or do I leave it the way it is?
You can change it to reflect the correct numbers if it's not correctly reported. You guys have free reign to change that so that, again, it reflects accurate data.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other questions? Yes, Karen?
Yes, I put it in the chat, but I haven't gotten a response. So did I hear you say 2023?
Correct.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course. Yes, Mary.
Hi, and kind of piggyback off Kieran's just to clarify that. So all the data entered is from this 2022-2023 school year, and it should not be any data from any years prior, correct?
Correct. It should be the so US Ed requests fiscal year 23 data, but we're saying school year 2022 to 2023 because that aligns best with what US Ed is requesting. And again, we know that all like districts have different start dates for the school year. So yes, to answer your question, it should reflect school year 2022 to 2023, and the enrollment data should be the fall 2022 counts.
Perfect. And then all of the, obviously the questions regarding, programming, tutoring only for that school year, nothing prior.
Correct.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Of course. Yes, Karen.
Yes, so just to clarify then, originally we were told the reporting period was October 1, 22 to September 30, 23. And now I hear you saying school year 22, 23. So are we back to July 1 of 22 to June 30 of 23?
So again, we're not giving you guys a specific date range for the school year because of the different start date and end dates for each district. But yes, to reflect fiscal year 23, that would be October 1st, 2022 to September 30th of 2023. So that date range is still accurate for the requested fiscal year.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Angela? Angela, you're on mute if you have a question.
My apologies.
Okay.
If we have a subgroup, like let's say we said we have 300 students, but only 100 students participated in the activity, all of the subgroups are based on those 100 scholars or those 300 scholars?
Okay, repeat that for me one more time. So you're saying if we look at the guidance as an example, so you're saying you said true here?
Correct.
And then false here?
Yes.
And then remind me of the subgroup numbers you said again.
So if we said our eligible numbers were 300, but only 100 participated. So I'm looking at column DH that you have there.
Yes.
And then DI. Would that be, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, continue with your question.
So is the subgroup based on those that participated or the subgroup that was eligible?
The subgroup that was eligible should go here, and then the number of students that were eligible to, the number of students that did participate goes in DI.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Hi, I want to go back to this date range issue.
Yes.
22-23 school year for us ends in June 23. The original guidance said to go from October of the prior year to September. That meant picking up 1 month of the 23-24 school year. So you're saying, just want to 100% confirm, we are only looking at the 22-23 school year, however our dates define that.
Correct, yes.
So that guidance of extending through the end of the year ending September 30 is disregarded.
Right, again, you just need to report on school year 2022 to 2023 data and make sure for the demographic enrollment section that you use fall 2022 counts.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Are there any other questions? Yes, Nicole.
Hi, I put my question in the chat too, but can you just confirm for the column, so when it asks for, is this program available to all students, is that total students for the district or total students in the subgroups allowable?
Sorry, could you repeat that one more time?
Yep, so we answered true for the evidence-based. And then for the next one, when it says, is this program available to all students? Is that all students total for the district or just in the subgroups?
So it should be the all students in the district.
Okay, so if we answered false and we only offered it to the subgroups, then that's accurate. Because we answered false because we didn't offer it to all students.
Okay, so you did true false here. So then,
Correct.
so then your enrolled eligible students at LEA and subgroup for each demographic subgroup should not tie to your demographic subgroup reported values in the section before section 1.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Are there any other questions? If there are no more questions, I can turn to the questions in the chat. I see that Dan did start going through here and answering some, but I can just read them out loud and answer them again, just in case anybody hasn't been reading the chat. So starting with Elizabeth's question, when you said there was an email about the salary amount, was that separate from the CrossAct email or those? So if you had a flag for the salary amount, that would have been included in the initial email that I sent to you guys with your submissions attached and the CrossAct technical guidance attached. If there was nothing said in there about a flag in that section, then your guys's numbers are fine there. So yes, to Shannon's question, if you didn't receive an email with errors flagged, then your data in that section is okay. Then you guys don't need to change anything there. And Mary, to your question, yes, it should only be the 2022 to 23 school year. And yes, Karen, should be fall 2022 counts, not fall 2023. And then the Nicole's question we addressed, but yes, it should be for all students in the district. Are there any other questions? in the that you guys can ask in the chat, or anybody wants to raise their hand. And again, just a reminder, if your question has been addressed, if you can lower your hand. Angela?
The email saying that you were flagged, it was specifically say flagged. I mean, I don't think I received anything, but I want to make sure that there isn't like any specific verbiage or anything that I'm missing.
There would be a section in the email indicating it would specifically call out that your data was flagged for either being greater than $100,000 or less than 100. So yes, if you don't see anything of that verbiage in the email, then your submission was not flagged.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Kimberly?
Yep. Hi, thank you. Just a question regarding if our data is accurate. Do we need to resubmit the report?
So if you guys reported on the correct reporting year, then you can just respond to my email that I sent you guys, just saying that your data is correct and reflects the correct reporting year, and that's all you guys have to do.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Tim, did you have another question?
No, I guess I forgot to take my hand off.
No worries. Angela, did you have another question?
No, I didn't. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. And Kimberly, same with you. Did I answer your question, or did you have another one for me? Okay. Amy?
Hello. So as far as first steps, we confirm that we're entering the demographics of Fall Count 2022 and that we're using the 22-23 school year.
Yes.
If we determine that is correct, are we done, or do we also then need to move forward to the sections 1, 2, and 4? You talked about in your presentation that those were the primary reasons. To make sure that our counts were correct in that, or is that a part that would have also been flagged and we would have been notified?
Okay, so I have two parts to my answer for your question. So first, if the data that you submitted reflects the fall 2022 counts and the school year 2022 to 2023 data, then you guys are fine with your data. You don't have to worry about resubmitting anything. The only reason that I would tell you to check your submission is if in the initial email that I sent to you, either at the end of July or beginning of August, if I indicated in that email that any of your data was changed to conform to US Ed requirements, then you guys just need to review the numbers in sections 1, 2, and 4 to make sure it accurately reflects your guys' data. Again, because there were some outstanding data quality issues that the ESF reporting tool was spitting back as an error. So we had to, again, change some of the data that you guys submitted to make sure that there were no errors from the tool. Does that answer your question? So then if in your email, in the email I sent you guys, it says that your data was changed and you review it and everything looks good to you guys and the reporting years are fine, then at that point, there is nothing else to do, no. And you can, again, just email me and let me know that your initial submission is accurate.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. there. Does anybody else have any questions? So the initial email that I sent to all of the districts that has your initial submission attached, as well as the technical guidance, that email was sent to you guys from my michigan.gov email address, either at the end of July or the beginning of August. So I will stay on the line until 4 to answer any other questions that come up. But if your questions have been answered, you can feel free to drop. And again, we'll send out information regarding where you can access both webinar recordings in the next few days or so. So you guys can just keep an eye out for that. But again, if your questions have been answered, feel free to drop. And if you're still on the line and you guys have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand or put your question in the chat.
Hi, I just wanted to follow up on my question and just make sure, just to verify that I have it correct. So again, I put false in, is this program available to all students? Because it wasn't, it was only available to the kids in the subgroups. So then I'm looking at like BW, for example. Or I'm sorry, yeah. So if we offered it to everybody, so we put in there, for example, that number, oh, I'm sorry, not BW. So it would be BY. So the number of enrolled students in the subgroup. So I went back and picked up our number from BE, which was the total number of students with one or more disabilities. So it ties back. And then for BZ, where it says the number of eligible, then we put the ones that actually participating, which was like 60 kids. So it is tying back into the first group. I just want to make sure that that's accurate.
So you answered true and then true for the second question?
No, so we did true and then false for the second question.
Okay, so if
we didn't offer it to all kids, we only offered it to the kids that fell into the subgroups.
So if you did not offer it to all students, then no, the enrolled eligible counts, those should not tie back to the demographic subgroup numbers that you reported in the section before section 1. because it was not available to all students. So you would indicate in this column here, the enrolled eligible, you would put the number of students in this demographic subgroup that were able to participate or that were eligible to participate in the activity. And then in the subsequent subsection, so the eligible students in subgroup participating, you would put the number of students that actually participated.
Yeah. Hi, Nicole, this is Dan. Rhea, if I could jump in here for a second, I just have a clarifying question for Nicole.
Sure.
Nicole, my question to you would be in column BY, it says if no, indicate the number of the students this program serves at full capacity. Is that number different than the total student enrollment you guys reported in the previous section up front?
So we reported 245 under, so 245 under BW.
So that's total students? Sorry, I can't see. Rhea, could you go to BW for us?
Number of students this program serves at full capacity.
Got it. So 245. So is that the entire student enrollment in the district, or is that just specifically to this activity for summer learning or summer enrichment?
That was just the activity for summer learning.
Okay, got it. So then, Rhea, if you could go up to the upfront section with the demographic figures and the total head count. Yes. So I think what Nicole is saying here, Rhea, is technically no, it was not available to all students because it was not available to students that didn't fall under one of the demographic subgroups, such as, you know, students with one or more disabilities, low income, etc. So any students that did not fall under one of these subgroups, they were not eligible for after school. So her question is, since it was only available to students within the subgroups, is it okay that her demographic figures tied to this section? So my question to her is, if you scroll to the right, isn't there, yeah, total unique head count of enrolled students, is that number different than the 245 that you reported for evidence-based? I believe it was, or after school, sorry. Yeah, evidence-based summer learning.
So, okay, so total unique head count of enrolled students I had was 2277. So that would be our total district. So
right.
that'd be all students.
Got it. And then so she put true false, so it was not available to the 22, I think she said 77, over 2,000 students. It was only available to 245 for evidence-based summer learning. But coincidentally, that 245, all of those students do tie out to the demographics up front. Is that correct, Nicole?
The 245 is what we were. I got you. So because I'm saying that, I think I see where the issue is. So our number, I'm just going to go to the first one. So BY, where it's students with one or more disabilities. So enrolled eligible students in the subgroup is 267, but I'm saying at full capacity we could only service 245. So is that the issue? Because we're saying we're offering it to everybody, but then we said we could only actually accommodate 245 instead of 267.
So I think we're getting close, but I thought you answered for the section 1. It was true. You did have the program. It was false. It was not available to the full subgroup of 265. It was only available to 245, correct?
So we did at full capacity that we could serve 245 kids, but then our total unique head count of students that participated in the activity was 215.
So that sounds correct. And then for that same demographic subgroup, if you scroll to the left, Rhea, up front, did you put 265 which is the total enrollment of students with one or more disabilities in the district.
Hold on 1 second. I put 267 students with one or more disabilities. So
Got
I
it.
put 267 there, and then I also put it under the number of enrolled eligible at the LEA in the subgroup under the students with one or more disabilities.
Got it. So that's the disconnect. Got it. So that's the disconnect. So since you answered true, it was available, and then you said false, not to all students, we wouldn't want it to be 267 in section 1 for enrolled eligible, because all 267 were not eligible, only 245 were eligible, right? So the 245 would be eligible, and then how many of the 245 participated would be that lower number. I think you said 215. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay, so the 215, because that's who actually participated in it? That's where I'm getting confused, sorry.
Yeah. And we could also take this offline too if we want to actually look at your numbers and kind of walk through it, but that's what I'm hearing. It sounds like you had 267 students within the entire district that fall under students with one or more disabilities. However, you answered false. It was not available to all students. So, okay, well, if we have 267 in the entire district that fall under this demographic, how many was it actually available to that they were eligible for? That would be the 245. So a step down from the 267 because it was not available to everyone with one or more disabilities. And then the next question in CB is how many of the 245 actually participated? And that sounds like it's 215. If I'm hearing the numbers correctly. So since you answered true false, since that second question is false, it's not available to all students. That's why CA cannot tie out to the previous demographic section, because it wasn't available to all 267 students with disabilities.
Because we put at full capacity, we can only serve 245. Because we offered it to all of them, even though they didn't, we just didn't serve all of them because. Okay, I think I got it.
I think again, if we need to take it offline to reach out to Rhea directly, we could jump on a quick call and actually look at your numbers and kind of talk through it further as well. But it sounds like, I think based on the numbers we were throwing around, it sounds like what we kind of went over just now sounds like that would be the right way to do it.
Okay, yeah, I think I got it. I think I'm gonna go back through. I'll meet with my grants coordinator and just look at it one more time, and then I'll just follow up through email with some questions. I think it makes sense now. I think I got it.
Okay, awesome. Sorry to take it away, Rhea, but back to you.
No, thank
Thanks,
you,
Nicole.
Dan. Okay, next. I apologize if I don't pronounce that. Okay, there we go.
How you doing? Terry,
Good,
from Multicultural Academy. Just a quick question. Columns A, B, and AL, AK, descriptions of other re-engagement strategies. If we don't have anything on them, do we just put none or do we leave them blank?
If you answered false to the question before, you can leave this blank.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yep. Did anybody else have any questions? Again, we'll be on the line for the next 10 minutes, but if all of your questions were answered, you can feel free to drop, or if you have any questions, raise your hand or put